All right, family. We live in the house. Make sure we in here looking good like we supposed to. That's right. We in the house. You rocking live with the general. You already know what time it is, man. We got some fire today. If you on your comedic, authentic comedic, then this is the place to be. And we're gonna be talking about one of the greatest pharaohs of all time. We talking about the great Amenhotep the third of the 18th dynasty. We talking about we got the brother date in there. He right around 1600, between 1500 1600 BC. We're gonna get the exact dates in just a second. And one of the greatest, matter of fact, some consider him the greatest. Now that's a debate now between him and Ramesses II. And why would they consider him the greatest? Because he left so much evidence. When you start talking about building on a megalithic scale, this brother left statues and temples all over Africa, even in the Levant. So he left temples and large statues, and many people look at Amenhotep III as being the precursor to the great pharaoh Ramesses II, who was probably between him and Amenhotep III, most definitely, unless you're going into the early dynastic period, where you start dealing with them pyramid builders. You feel what I'm saying? Sneferu, Imhotep, and Khufu, and great pharaohs like that. But before we get started, family, make sure you click that link, get over there to Patreon. We most definitely going live tonight, man. We locked and loaded, and we intend to act a fool all over the internet, every platform. We intend on acting a fool. So make sure you tap in and become a patron so you can get that work. And so Amenhotep, matter of fact, we got some fire up in here. Yeah, the general about to start tapping back in on these photos. You feel what I'm saying? Do it like nobody else can do it. For real. Let me get this in here. There we go. Let's get him in here. All right. Yeah. Okay. Let me see. I might want to get it in there just a little. All right. Make sure everything is like it's supposed to be. Okay. Make sure everything is in there like it's supposed to be. Yeah. Hold on. Okay. Okay, there we go. So this is one of the statues. And see, that's another thing about Amenhotep III. He just left so many statues. And see, this is where Egypt stands out from every civilization in the ancient world. See, we're not asking where it is. Here it is. You feel what I'm saying? When we ask everybody else, where it at? You can't come up with it. See, can't come up with it. And so it leads with, the Kemetic civilization, the Kemetic Kushite civilization. You got the evidence. The man existed. The man left he didn't leave his legacy for dispute. It's not for dispute. The man left so many megalithic structures that's not up for dispute. And the type of technology it would take to put something like that on this planet is not up for dispute. This mind-boggling technology, and in the fact not just the carving of the statues, the moving of these stones. You know what I'm saying? Weighing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tons. You feel me? Moving it on the water, moving it on land, depending on what methodology was needed. And so we talking about now. The thing is about Amenhotep the third. He ruled Egypt at the height of his power. You see what I'm saying? He ruled Egypt at the height of his power. Uh, you know, Especially in the 18th dynasty, most of the pharaohs that ruled before Amenhotep the third, they had the crack heads. the Tutmosis, the Amoses, and even some of them earlier Amenhoteps, the Amenhotep the first and second. See, they had to put hands and feet on a lot of them adversaries out there. But by the time Amenhotep the third came into power, and he came into power, he ruled from between 1390, 1353 BCE. Okay. And so most of them pharaohs before Amenhotep the third, they were fighting, to gain supremacy in the Levant, Canaan, and all the way up into what they call the land of the Hittites, and so, but by time Amenhotep the third came into power, uh, they had whooped everybody, so he didn't have to do too much fighting. He at that point he had full control over most of Nubia. He had control over the Levant, so all he was doing was getting tribute. And so he spent majority of his wealth at that time. I mean, he had endless amounts of wealth, and that's why he built so many megalithic structures, temples. He built temples in Nubia. He built temples all throughout Egypt, and even amongst the Freemasons. He's looked at as one of the great legacies of the Freemasons because he rebuilt the Grand Lodge of Luxor. Now, the Grand Lodge of Luxor is where, and matter of fact, I got it here for you. If I believe I do. No, that's for Ramesses. Let me see. Here you go. There you go, right there. So he is the one who revived the Grand Lodge. This was where the brothers would be, a final initiation. After doing your 40 years in the Egyptian sacred educational society institution, you would be raised at the Grand Lodge, which is right here. And I was, blessed to be able to go to this temple 3 times in my life, and every time it's always, mind blowing to get to these temples. And but this is the brother that added so much on to this temple. A lot of it was had fallen down, or because when you study these ancient structures, they normally are building on top of older structures. You know what I'm saying? So it's always been something in these places, and if you go up under the ground, you will see so many different foundations. You feel me? Different foundations from different eras. You see what I'm saying? And so this is the Grand Lodge of Luxor, and I know most definitely that colonnade that you can see all the way in the back. And I believe Ramesses II came and put the front part on. Now, let me be clear about that. I believe the front pylon area, and I believe there is it's, what is it called? Well, it's a courtyard, and it's a courtyard of past grand masters. And so when you go right through that front pylon, you'll come into a courtyard of past grand masters, and so you will see statues of the brothers who had reached the highest degree in the mystery system. That's the high priest, the grand master, not the high priest, but the grand master. And so I know Ramesses put the front part, but that colonnade, and I believe, and there's a hyper-style hall behind that colonnade. All of that was built by Amenhotep the third, this good brother right here. And so and he also put some work into the Karnak temple. Senusret the first was the one who started building, but Amenhotep put a lot of work in on the Karnak temple too. So this brother was building all over the place, and so and we all know of his wife, the famous Queen T, one of the most famous queens of all, all of Egyptian history. And we'll touch on her in a minute. But we Amenhotep, constructed the Luxor. Much of the temple's core was built during his reign. The Karnak temple he added. Well, let me get back on good brother Amenhotep. I'm gonna put this one in here. Amenhotep, the Karnak temple, he added major pylons, courts, and monuments. You see, he built the great temple at Soleb in Nubia, and he built also a temple in Nubia for Queen T. You see, and where she was deified as the goddess Hathor. And so, this and the largest mortuary temple then built in Egypt. Now, if let me see if I got the Colossi of Memnon. I'm gonna see if I got it in here. Is these two large statues that this brother built? Now, the temple is no longer there, but when it stood, and I believe earthquakes knocked it down. But the two the two statues that was in front of this temple is still there. And so the fact that they call it the Colossi Memnon, a lot of people attributed, associated Amenhotep the third with Memnon, who was the legendary king of Ethiopia, who went up to aid his uncle Priam in the Trojan War. But but I don't believe that Amenhotep the third is that brother, because again he wasn't even militarily aggressive like that, because everybody had been whooped by the time he came to the throne. So it could very well could have been some of them other some of them other kings before him that most definitely could have been Memnon, but that lets you know that they associate the great king, Ethiopian king Memnon, with Africa. You see that they associated him with Egypt, and they associated him with Cush. And so again, under his rule, gold mines, they was producing a whole lot of wealth, coming with them gold mines coming out of Egypt, agriculture, trade, craftsmanship flourish. You see that craftsmanship. And that's why when you go into Freemasonry today, this brother is highly revered. He's one of the most highly revered pharaohs of all time. And the fact that him and Ramesses, the fact that they, replenish the Grand Lodge. That is the lodge of the brotherhood, where you was finally raised up, to be a priest. This is where you was raised up, and this in any higher degrees. You feel what I'm saying? You would have received them degrees at the Grand Lodge of Luxor. And so, a lot of Freemasons, but that just show you that, you pretending. You ain't you going through the Western Freemasonry, but in reality, it's the African Masonry. I don't get off into all that Masonry. The Brotherhood of the Nile Valley is the oldest and the most profound fraternity of brotherhood in all of world history. And everyone you see that's here today is nothing but a watered down knockoff of that great fraternal system. And so we know that his wife Queen T, one of the most influential queens in all of Egyptian history. Let me see, I got her in here. Let me get her in here. Here she go, right here. That famous statue where she got her afro. She had, I don't know, they didn't, I don't know what's going on because she had that headdress up there with the horns of Hathor, and I believe she had the also the ostrich feathers of Ra. Ra on her head. So at that point in time, she had come back under the her son Akhenaten. He went wild and shit, and he started to close down some of the a lot of the temples, and but when he came up missing, and him, they just came up missing. And nobody nobody know where they went, and nobody seemed to have, but miraculously, after they disappearance, the Brotherhood of Amun Ra came back into supremacy. All of the pharaohs after Akhenaten reverted back to the worship of Amun, the great god of Waset, including Queen T. And like I said, she was depicted with the horns of Hathor on her head with the plume. And I believe it might be because it's frail, that headdress, and they probably took it off to keep somebody from breaking it, but a lot of pictures show her with that headdress on her head. But when we talk about Amenhotep III, his legacy is when he died, Egypt arguably was the most prestigious, most artistically accomplished kingdom in the ancient world. His reign is frequently described as the peak. Let me get the brother in here. Let me get him in here. The peak of the new kingdom. You see, of the new kingdom. We'll most definitely say the new kingdom, not the old kingdom, but most definitely he was the peak of the new kingdom, and that Egypt hand at that point in time was touching everywhere on the planet. At that time under Amenhotep III, Egypt hand reached all over the planet. And where it hadn't reached physically, spiritually, ancient Egypt was the spiritual capital. And when I speak of Egypt, I speak of the Nile Valley. Because as you go up the Nile, the most sacred it became. Egypt itself was the Holy Land, but to the Egyptians up south was even more holier than that, because they referred to that land as the Ta Neteru, the land of the gods and goddesses. You see, so that land was even more holier than Egypt. And so this is where it wasn't no Jerusalem, it wasn't no there was no Mecca, no Bethlehem, no Vatican, or none of that. And so this is where all the spiritual pilgrims of the ancient world, if they could come, this is where they came, and to venerate, the great gods and goddesses of ancient Egypt. So I appreciate y'all being. We're going to touch on and continue to touch on the greats of Kemet. And again, when I say this, you can go anywhere in the world and people got mythology. You see what I'm saying? I want you to emphasize the power of being. You don't leave your legacy to mythology alone. That's the one thing about Egypt. It dreaded not leaving its legacy. Where everybody else where we had it. Well, goddamn it, you ain't got it now. How we know you even had it? You see? That's so Egypt was about being here for eternity. That's where you go to them pyramid. Motherfuckers say whatever they want about the pyramid. They can talk about any of that shit that they want to say. Man, 5,000 years from now, them goddamn pyramids are still your fucking your ideology, your opinion will be dead and gone. Motherfuckers won't even know what your opinion. It'll be some new shit that people will be making up. But your philosophy will be dead and gone. But you know what'll still be here? Egypt. And then people can say what it was and what it wasn't, but the fact that the motherfucker's still standing and that people cannot deny the power of its being, the ability to exist long after the people and then we're still here, but we talking about the living civilization is gone, is no longer as it was when it was standing. And the fact that they have left endless amounts of monuments, statues, and evidence is power in itself to state that Egypt is the greatest civilization that ever has existed on the planet Earth, and that every aspect of civilization today came from ancient Egypt. You see, we talking about real shit. We not talking about for architecture. Them goddamn, I look it up. The same tools that it took to build them pyramids is the same tools that they using to build skyscrapers today. That's the very same tool. And so that show you right there that people say Egypt is not gone. Because if you cannot advance past the original technology, then Egypt is still high in the Bible and the Quran and all of that shit. You done stole, and we can show you that these is nothing more than stories that then came. So how can you say Egypt? You have not been able to elevate past what they put down on the planet over 5,000 years ago. They reach a perfected science in many aspects. They reached a perfected science, just like with the damn the cosmology. I mean, the stars was they charted the stars. They ain't changed. They charted the 365-day calendar. It ain't changed. They reached the perfected state. And so if you can't elevate past, you can't. It's been perfected already. And so the only thing you could do is pay homage, goddammit. But anyway, family, get over there to Patreon, click that link at the top of the chat, because we got some crazy lectures over there on Patreon. And if you ain't tapped into them, go take a look. But I'll be right back, family. I'll see you in a minute. Black Power.